So who was Silas Burke? Who were the Coffers? Where's the Burke Airport? Is there really a bunny man? We're going to find all of this out when we go explore Burke, Virginia. Now, this is Google's map of Burke. It's bordered by the Powhatan Creek on the right, the Fairfax County Parkway to the south, 123 to the west, and the railroad tracks generally on the north. But if you live in this large red area on the right, you'll have a Springfield address, and that little small area to the left in red is Fairfax Station. In 1728, Francis Coffer was given a land grant of 378 acres in this area known as Burke. Silas Burke was a farmer, a merchant, and a politician. In 1824, he married Hannah Coffer, the great-great-granddaughter of Francis Coffer, and he lived in this house that was called Woodbury. Silas Burke was president of the Fairfax Agricultural Society and the owner and operator of local grist and lumber mills. According to the Burke Historical Society, Burke also served as a county judge and sheriff, president of the Fairfax Turnpike Company, and a lieutenant colonel in the state militia. Gee, Silas, overachieved much? In the 1840s, Silas brought the Orange and Alexandria Railroad to the area, and the station was called Burke Station. Built along the Orange and Alexandria Railroad around 1857, this was the center of the town of Burke for decades, as well as an important location during the Civil War. It was here where J.E.B. Stuart sent his famous telegram to the Union Quartermaster General complaining about the quality of mules he had captured. I guess trolling isn't something new. The original Burke Station building can still be seen here. When the railroad was moved north in the early 1900s, the old station was rotated 90 degrees. Today, it's home to an Allstate insurance office. I wonder if they do homeowners. Another important landmark around here is the Marshall family cemetery. Now, John Marshall served as the first postmaster of Burke while also running the Marshall General Store, which was located about 100 feet west of here. He worked as an agent for the Burke Railroad Depot and as a foreman for Silas Burke. Man, these people held a lot of jobs. It's believed that the Marshall's residence was located somewhere near the intersection of Burke Road and Old Burke Lake Road. Also near here was the Copperthite Racetrack, also known as the Burke Station Racetrack. Opened from July 4th, 1908 for nearly a decade, it was a harness racing racetrack and wildly successful. It was built by a man named Henry Copperthite, who owned the largest pie company in the country. He was known as the King of Pie. This house was built in the 19th century and was known as Locust Hill. It was the home of Thomas Coffer and then of his son Joshua Coffer. Huldah was Joshua Coffer's wife and 26 years his junior. Joshua and Huldah's daughter Hannah Coffer married Silas Burke. It was later the home of Ella Coffer Hall and her husband Milton Delaney Hall, who was the longtime superintendent of the Fairfax County Public Schools. Ella Hall tragically committed suicide in 1908 by throwing herself in front of a train. The Lee Chapel Methodist Church replaced Mount Carmel Church, which had been destroyed by a fire. This is the site of the old Lee Chapel, hence Lee Chapel Road. This chapel was built in 1871. In 1951, the chapel closed for the final time because a lot of families moved after the federal government purchased a lot of Burke's land for the proposed Dulles Airport. As I said before, in 1951, families started to move away when their land was condemned for Burke Airport. Oh, wait, the Burke Airport? We'll get to that in a minute. When Francis Coffer died in 1861, his will freed from slavery Charles T. Pearson, his three brothers, and his mother. The proceeds from the sale of Coffer's property also went to the Pearson family. With this money, Charles Pearson built a home, farmed, and later set aside a plot of land for the cemetery. In 1891, these freed slaves built the Little Zion Baptist Church. Reverend Lewis Henry Bailey was the church's first pastor. The building still stands at the corner of Burke Lake Road and Windward Drive. The Pearson family cemetery is located on the grounds of the church. The congregation still meets today, but at a different location. I'm here at the corner of Burke Lake Road and Ox Road. Here there was a mansion known as Brimstone Hill, also called Arundel's Farm. Now the Arundels were Union sympathizers, and as you can imagine, being amongst the Confederate sympathizers around here was a little bit difficult. They were pretty outnumbered. It was here at Arundel's Tavern that Fairfax County's last shots of the Civil War were fired. In the mid-1800s, the property belonged to the tavern owner, Charles Arundel, and was called Arundel's Ordinary. Later, Jeremiah Donovan owned the land at the corners of Burke Lake Road and Route 123, and that's where Donovan's Corner comes from. It was later owned by Judge Paul Brown. Remember that name for later? There will be a test. One of the oldest houses in Burke is this home called Mulberry Hill. It was built in 1790 by an attorney and Revolutionary War activist called Thomas Windsor. It was situated on 300 acres of land that was used for tobacco farming. An even older home was featured in the Washington Post in 2019. Known as King's Grant, it was built from 2 log cabins that were built on the Ravensworth estate. One of the cabins is thought to have belonged to a farm manager on the estate. If you look real close, you can still see remnants of the old Burke town. It's around Old Burke Lake Road and Lee Street, Jackson Street. You can still see some of the old houses. Burke began to grow when the federal government grew. And in 1951, the government was going to put an international airport here and condemned a lot of the land for the purpose of building it. But a grassroots effort by the community stopped the plans, and the government decided on Chantilly instead. That's a whole other story. 8 years after the locals received the initial notification that the government had condemned their homes, now the GSA had to liquidate the unneeded land. Some of this land was turned over to Fairfax County to create Burke Lake Park, which we'll talk about later in this video, but the rest of it became the planned community of Burke Center. Now this community is a mixture of homes, businesses, spread over 1,700 acres, and it's connected by nature trails and outdoor spaces. There's over 5,800 residences in the 5 neighborhoods that are organized into clusters. There's about 7 ponds in Burke Center, with over 100 trails within the Conservancy. The Conservancy offices are located just off of Burke Center Parkway, and you can visit there from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday to find out all about Burke Center community. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this street is called Johnson-Sabin Way, named after Dennis Johnson and Charles Sabin, who lost their lives during the attack on the Pentagon. There's also a Veterans Memorial here. Burke Center neighborhoods include the Commons, the Landings, the Oaks, the Ponds, and the Woods. The Commons is actually a co-op, and it's the only one in the area. If you'd like to know a little bit more about how co-ops work, click the link in the description. Condos start around $275 and townhomes start around $400. Single-family homes start about $700 and go up to about $900. Other neighborhoods include Cherry Run, where the homes range in the $700s to $900s, although one sold last year for over $1 million. Cardinal Glens, where single-family homes can be in the $700s and townhomes are in the mid-$500s. And Rolling Valley West, where the homes can run from the mid-$500s to the $800s. Luxury homes can be found in neighborhoods like Burke Lake Meadow and Edgewater, where the homes are priced between $1.1 and $1.8 million. There are 3 lake communities in Burke. Huntsman Lake is situated around the Glenwood Manor neighborhood. There are basketball courts, picnicking, and a playground, and a paved network of trails, but there's no loop trail around the lake. Homes here run in the mid-5s to the low 6s for townhouses and $900K plus for a single family. Lake Braddock is a private lake owned by the Lake Braddock Community HOA. Homes here are single-family and townhomes that range from the low 700s to 900s. And you can get your exercise in with the Lake Braddock Exercise Trail that loops all the way around the perimeter of the lake. This is Barton Lake. It's one of the many lakes that are around Fairfax County and Burke in particular. There are several different townhouse styles here, and they run between 400 and 600K. There's also Burke Cove, a condo community that has about a dozen floor plans. They run from $275 for a one-bedroom up to $375 for a three-bedroom. Burke has its share of retirement communities. First, there's Sunrise at the Silas Burke House. Across the street is the Heatherwood Retirement Community, as well as the Burke Health and Rehabilitation Center. The other retirement community in Burke is the Burke Lake Gardens. Cravenna Oaks and Summit Oaks are other options for affordable retirement living. Did I leave any out? Let me know in the comments. The Virginia Railway Express has two stops in Burke, the Rolling Road Station and the Burke Center Station. Both have adequate parking, with the Burke Center Station having a 1,500 car parking garage. That's because this station also services Amtrak. Burke is serviced by the 17B, 17K, and the 18G, J, and P lines, as well as the Fairfax Connector 306 and 495 lines. Right. Yeah. A new trail to the west of the station opened in March, giving more neighborhoods access. Most middle school and high school students are going to attend Lake Braddock Secondary School. This is a combination high school and middle school. The elementary schools are White Oaks, Terra Grande, and Fairview. But some students might attend Cherry Run, so it's always a good idea to check the Fairfax County Public Schools website. Okay, there is no lack of shopping in Burke. There are about 6 or 7 different shopping centers. There's the Burke Village Center, Rolling Valley Mall, Burke Town Plaza, Burke Center Shopping Center, Burke Town Center, Huntsman Square, and then there's the Target. Now, while it's not technically in Burke, it's in Fairfax, I wanted to include it anyway. The Burke Center Festival is back for 2022. There is an arts and crafts show, karaoke, there's live bands, dancing, amusement park rides, midway style games. It's kind of a big deal. Central Burke is also where the Burke Nursery and Garden Center hosts a pumpkin playground every October. Check the links in the description for more info. From April to December, the Burke Farmers Market takes place each Saturday morning from 8 to 12 in the Burke Center VRE station parking lot. Check the link for more info. Burke also has a library where the kiddies can go and read books and have some activities. There are about 15 or 16 parks just like this one scattered in and around Burke, so you'll always be close to one. For a complete list of all the parks in Burke, check the description. Part of the land that had been purchased to build that airport was later developed into Burke Lake Park. Burke Lake Park is an 888-acre park centered on a 218-acre recreational lake. There's an 18-hole, 3-part golf course, a carousel, an ice cream parlor, yum, a miniature train ride, a disc golf course, mini golf, an amphitheater, and camping. There's also numerous picnic and sports areas, boat rental, and a 4.68-mile jogging trail. Now, if you're looking for a good place to eat, Burke has it all. There's Indian, there's Thai, there's Mexican. I mean, whatever you're looking for, they've got it. There's not much of a nightlife here, though. If you're looking for a bar, there's Glory Days, there's Hobbs Frog, and there's a couple of other ones that are inside the restaurants. But this is not a place for nightlife. This is your typical suburban neighborhood, and you have to go somewhere else for the nightlife. Okay, technically it's not nightlife, but it is the only brewery in the area. It opened last year in 2021. It's on Guinea Road, and it's the first brewery opened in Burke. It's based on the urban legend in Fairfax County called the Bunny Man. I won't get into the urban legend stuff here. There's another video about that. But suffice it to say that the story has been around for decades, and there may or may not have been a bridge involved. Well, that's going to do it for our tour of Burke, Virginia. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you would like more information about Burke, Virginia and its various neighborhoods, please be sure and give me a call. All my contact information is in the description down below. As always, I'm Agent Kathy, and we will see you later. Adios.